Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us His truth. Salutations to the sincere Akim and Akwat that may listen. May the blessing of election be over your house. My name is Brother Okwai. I'm back in here with another quick Yahweh and edifying lesson. And for today's lesson, I'm just going to be going through topic I have is for those who have their parents consider these things, right? So this is going to be a bit of a short commentary, and I want to toss in a couple of precepts, and Lord willing, this will be an edifying lesson, and just briefly what inspired this lesson was it was actually a conversation I was having with a cleaning lady at my workplace, and we sat there, we chatting about where we were from in our respective places, and she brought up the point. I don't even know how we ended up on this point, but essentially we were actually speaking on the how she goes back home to her country. So she's from Chile. And I suspect in my spirit that she's an Israelite. And we were speaking about Babylon and looking after our parents and the way things are in Babylon the Great, and how Babylon the Great kind of shifts the minds of our of Israelites who have been here for so long, to actually steer them away from our customs, right? As a matter of fact, before I ramble on too much, let's get Revelation. This is Revelation chapter 18, verse 4, and it reads, "And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, so that ye be not partakers of her sins, that ye receive not of her plagues," right? And that her is referred to that whore, right? And that whore represents America, because she's the one that's America is the country that's committing fornication, with all these other nations, right? They're doing business with all these other nations. But the point I wanted to bring out in regards to this, because it says, "Come out of her, my people," right? So, the Lord's people are the Israelites, and the objective is to flee from Babylon spiritually, to put off those ways, right? And come back to the wisdom and knowledge of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai. Come back to your customs. Come back to your heritage, right? So, we were just speaking about the complete contrast between being from our respective tribes and Israelites being here, right? Because they depart so far away from their customs. But I don't think she knows she's an Israelite. But it's very interesting to have these conversations with people sometimes, because people, Israelites normally keep a lot of these customs in their spirit without actually knowing what the customs actually are, or knowing who they are as well, right? So let me just grab Romans. Okay, this is Romans chapter 2, verse 14, and it reads, "For when the Gentiles, which have not the law, do by nature the things in the law, having not the law, are a law unto themselves." So the Gentiles are referring to those those Israelite foreigners who did not know they were Israelites, right? And when you go through the Apocrypha in books such as First and Second Maccabees, you'd realize that it was only the Israelites that went through that period of Hellenization, by the Greeks, right? So that is the bit of snippets of the history where our people, fell away from their customs. And by the time Yahweh Shai arrived on the scene, it was probably about what? about a good 300 years. So imagine how much generations and how much information and how much of the practices and the customs that were lost in that period of time. It was a lot of information, right? So in the time when Yahushua and when Paul arrived on the scene, you know, a lot of the Israelites didn't even know that they were Israelites, right? But you would have situations even up to this day that there are things that our people do in their spirit without knowing that they actually are keeping those very laws, statutes, and commandments, right? So let's get Exodus. Okay, this is Exodus chapter 20, verse 12, and it reads, "Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days, Lakia, may be long upon the land which the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, thy power giveth thee." Right, so this is one of this is part of our customs, this is a part of our heritage, right? But in Babylon the Great, as I was discussing with this cleaning woman, we had come to that kind of consensus that a lot of our people, especially a lot of young Israelites, men and women, they have a complete disregard for their parents, not looking after their parents, especially when their parents get to a certain age, right? There's a sentiment of kind of moving on and rebelling against their parents, because like I personally grew up in the islands, for example, and it's an environment which is very, very family and village oriented, right? And there's more of a regard for both of your parents, father and mother. But in Babylon the Great, there's a crazy hefty spirit of casting your parents aside and not even looking out for them, especially as they get older, right? Being rebellious, talking back to your parents, being disobedient, things of that nature, right? So that's why it's interesting. They're very emotional. My God, man, this place is crazy. Let's get Deuteronomy. No, that's not it. Oh, it's 18. Okay, this is Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 18, and it reads, "For if a man have a stubborn and rebellious son, which will not obey the voice of his father or the voice of his mother, and that, when they have chastened him, will not hearken unto them, then shall his father and his mother lay hold on him and bring him out to the elders of his city and unto the gate of his place, and they shall say unto the elders of his city, this is our son, is stubborn and rebellious, and will not obey our voice. He's a glutton and a drunkard," right? So that's as a matter of fact, let's get that word, glutton. Okay, glutton. So it says one who eats and drinks in excess, scoundrel, to swallow, throat, overeater. So someone eats a lot, right? The scriptures talk about that actually. Be not insatiable over many meats, to roughly paraphrase, right? Let's read the verse again, and it says, "And they shall say unto the elders of the city, this is our son, is stubborn and rebellious, and he will not obey our voice, and a glutton and a drunkard," right? So he's like a misfit essentially, and that's the vibration of what this place actually does to the children in this place. Verse 21, and it reads, "And the men of the city shall stone him with stones, that he die. so shall thou put away evil from among you, and all Israel shall hear and fear. Right? So, this is a way to actually, maintain that order, maintain that fear, right? Because, when we're, out amongst in the world, for example, or, something I was thinking about, we represent Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, right? Right? But I know 2/3 of our, young people, or, of our people in general, the children, they don't actually have that healthy fear of the Lord, right? And that actually compels them to, remind them, okay, don't speak to your parents, in such a way, you don't treat your parents in a certain way, and so on and so forth, right? Let's get... Okay, this is Sirach chapter 3. I'm going to start at verse 1 and read down and then just interject, right? So it reads the following. Hear me, your father, O children, and do thereafter, that ye may be safe. For our Lord, Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, hath given the father honor over the children, and hath confirmed the authority of the mother over the sons. Whoso honoreth his father make an atonement for his sins. And he that honoreth his mother is that one that layeth up treasure, right? So this is spiritual jewels that Yahweh Bashim Yahushai is actually dropping, right? Because in this Babylon the Great, like I was saying before, it teaches, a lot of our people to, even rebel, not just rebel against your parents, but against the teacher. When I was growing up in the islands, I couldn't even do that. There was a strict, because we even had a healthy fear of authority, right? They were allowed to beat our asses, right? To excuse my French, right? So I'll read that again. Whoso honoreth his father maketh an atonement for his sins. And he that honoreth his mother is as one that layeth up treasure, right? So, in times to come, especially during the midst of Jacob's trouble, and when this B system tries to put out their MOTB, if you're the type of person that has, your parents around you, these are certain things to actually consider, right? You want to make sure that, you have these blessings, checked off, right? I remember years ago when I came into the truth, I heard this Apostle Gabar made this video that really compelled me to actually strengthen the relationship with my father. And he said to me, not to me, Slakia, but he said in the video, don't you want Yahweh Bashem Yahushai to bless you? So do forgive your father, right? So whatever it is, make that that effort to actually, help out your parents, whatever way that you can, right? If you can help them drive to the store, you do that. They need counsel or advice on something, you give them counsel and advice, filter it through the scriptures, definitely, obviously. And other things, whatever they need help with, right? Essentially, this, your parents, took care of you, right? So if you have them around, look after them in whatever way, shape, or form you can, right? Like it says in I think it's First Peter chapter 4, says the end of all things is at hand. And then the next verse says, charity covered a multitude of sins, right? I'm going to read verse 4, and it reads, he that honoreth his mother is as one that layeth up treasure. Whoso honoreth his father shall have joy over his own children, and when he maketh his prayer, he shall be heard, right? And especially in times to come, these are the things of the works that we want Yahweh Bashim Yahushai to remember us by, right? That being that example who actually, we use this grace period, very effectively to actually make that effort to actually have that rapport with our parents, whether if your parents are in your life, right? Where was I? I'll read verse 4 again, and it reads that he that honoreth his mother is as one that layeth up treasure. Whoso honoreth his father shall have joy over his own children, and when he make his prayer, he shall be heard. He that honoreth his father shall have a long life, and he that obedient unto the Lord Yahweh Bashim Shai shall be a comfort to his mother. He that feareth the Lord Yahweh Bashim Shai will honor his father, and will do service unto his parents as to his masters, right? So, this is very, very important because, with the fear, that healthy dose of fear of the Lord actually would compel you to actually, regard these things, actually pay attention to these things. And that is the main ingredient that 2/3 of our people don't have, right? This is why they behave like a complete degenerate children, right? So, further on it reads, honor thy father and thy mother, both in word and deed, that a blessing may come upon thee from them, right? And, we want to be blessed from Yahweh Hashem Shai. We want to be protected from the times to come, right? So, this is very, very crucial, especially if you have your parents around you, right? I'm just going to read a little bit more, but the whole chapter is very, very good, right? So I strongly encourage to go through this chapter. Verse 9, it reads, for the blessing of the father establishes the house of children, but the curse of the mother rooteth out foundation. Glory not in the dishonor of thy father, and the father's dishonor is no glory unto thee. For the glory of a man is from the honor of his father, and a mother in dishonor is a reproach to the children. My son, help thy father in his age, and grieve him not as long as he liveth, right? So this is just going into those, this takes another form of charity. This is, like Peter talks about in 1 Peter chapter 4, right? Because charity, first of all, charity is not even just limited to money. Charity can also be time, to actually, help out. Even something as simple as, phone call to your parents, if they don't live with you or anything like that. Checking in if they need something. Would you like some clothes? You need a drink or whatever it is. And I guess if they ask for money, if it's within your means, to do so, help them, right? And charity can also be, as well as being, even being a brother to your fellow brethren in the camp as well, right? But, for the sake of this lesson, it's strictly just focusing on, for those Akim and Aquas that have their parents in your life, this is a way for you to capitalize and store up those blessings and treasures that Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shai, has given us, right? We would like those blessings from Yahweh Bashim, Yahweh Shai to, especially in times to come, right? Pursuant to Habakkuk chapter 3, in the midst of judgment, roughly paraphrase, we want the Lord to remember mercy, right? So I'm going to grab one more. I went on a little bit too long, but okay, this is Proverbs 11:4, and it reads, riches profit not in a day of wrath, but righteousness delivereth from death, right? So that's very straightforward, right? So that's the blessings and the treasure that we want, right? to have the Lord have mercy on us, right? In times to come. But anyways, I want to leave it there. But yeah, Rataza, this video was edifying. I don't want to make this too complex or complicated. But I just like to give our praises, glory, and honor to Yahweh Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Rakakadash, the honors the apostles and elders of Great Millstone for teaching us his truth. Till next time, I say Shalom.